All right, guys, welcome back. Let's get into it. Imagine you live on Hennessy Street in Glen Alpine, North Carolina, a small town tucked into Burke County, the kind of place where everybody knows the walking trail behind the neighborhood, the one that cuts through the Simpson Park. You've walked it 100 times, and then one day in July, that trail becomes a crime scene. Not once, twice. That's exactly what happened to this community. On July 21st, 2026, the Burke County Sheriff's Office and Glen Alpine Police were called out to that nature trail after reports of suspicious circumstances. When the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation got involved, they confirmed what neighbors feared: human remains found right there along the trail. Those remains were later identified as 31-year-old Raheim Murray of Morganton. 4 days later, on July 25th, investigators had built enough of a case to issue arrest warrants. Jamar Propst and Tosha Lewis, both 36 years old, were taken into custody without incident. Each was charged with first-degree murder and felony conspiracy in connection with Murray's death. But this story didn't end with one arrest. Later that same day, July 25th, investigators went back to that same stretch of trail near 618 Hennessy Street, and they found a second set of human remains. The SBI was called back into process the scene all over again. The SBI was called back in to process the scene all over again. As of this recording, the second victim has not been publicly identified. Authorities say identification is pending and the family will be notified before any name is released. And I want to be upfront with you that I'm not going to speculate on who that second person is until the coroner office confirms it. What we do know is once the second set of remains was discovered, Propst and Lewis were hit with an additional count each of first-degree murder and felony conspiracy. That brings the total to 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of conspiracy each. Both are being held without bond. A court appearance was scheduled for July 27th. That's today, as of this recording. So I'll be watching for what comes out of that hearing, and I'll absolutely bring you an update. This investigation pulled in a lot of agencies: the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, the Burke County Sheriff's Office, Morgantown Department of Public Safety, and even the Myrtle Beach Police Department out of state, along with federal investigators. When you see that many agencies stacked on one case, that tells you there's a lot more to this story that's been made public so far. And there's something I have to point out, because it's part of how I cover these cases. This is not an isolated incident in North Carolina this year. This is one of several cases I've covered involving human remains being discovered across this state, including a separate case out of Rockingham where 3 different people remains were found on separate occasions. I want to be clear, I'm not saying these cases are connected. I have no evidence of that, but it is a pattern in my own coverage that I think is worth naming. If you are in Burke County, in Glen Alpine, in Morgantown, and you know about anything with the Raheim Murray case, or about Jamar Propst, about Tosha Lewis, or about who else might have used that trail, please reach out to Burke County Sheriff's Office or the SBI tip line. Somebody knows something. Guys, I cover these stories so that the story of the victim can be told, so that they can have a voice and get that loud recognition, like we see with the Nolan Wells case, like we've seen with so many other cases that have garnered national attention. It's horrific for a family to lose anyone. So I couldn't imagine what they're going through right now. Again, if you know anything revolving this case or anyone who may have walked the trail, please reach out to the Burke County Sheriff's Office or the SBI tip line. Again, I'm sure someone knows something. If you've watched a video this far, please go ahead and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Leave your thoughts on this, and we'll see you the next time.